Hello, Fearless Gamers, and welcome to another podcast here on Fearless Games. I'm Matt the Vet, and today I'm joined by...
James the Wildcard.
How are you?
Pretty good. How's it going?
Pretty good. Stuff has been happening.
Yes. Speaking of stuff, first off, to make sure, you enjoy playing the Gauntlet games, right?
What? I don't know if I've ever actually played a Gauntlet game.
Gauntlet Legends, Blue Warrior, Needs Food Badly, all that fun stuff. Where you just,
No, I haven't played any of those.
Well, you're an imbecile. But, they are the hack and slash game extraordinaire. And the reason I bring that up is because it's exciting news that's been about for a while now, but I just remembered it. Steam has Gauntlet. It's kind of like I don't want to say it's a redo, but it kind of is a redo of the Gauntlet series. Coming out September 23rd is when it launches, but you can pre-order now, essentially. It's just called Gauntlet. Mm-hmm. And it's the classic thing. You got the blue, it's blue, red, I forget the colors, blue, red, green, and something else. But it's basically a range dude, a wizard, like a warrior, and I call it a Valkyrie, but it's a warrior with a shield. It's and you just go around fighting in dungeons, doing epic, basically dungeon crawls, or just killing everything. You get power-ups and whatnot, and you just kill everything on screen. That's not U1 to U4. It's a lot of fun, and I recommend people check it out. It's basically meant to be played before the players. Mm-hmm. It's one of those style of games, and you just wreck face. And I'm so happy that it's because I heard about it and then I forgot that they were doing this. So I was looking at it the other day. I'm like, you know what, I miss Gauntlet, and look it up, like when it came out and everything, some of the older ones. I'm like, oh right, they're doing a new Gauntlet thingy. Oh yeah, I forgot all about that.
Now, speaking of, we left off with a question on our last podcast, which was, what is the worst video game you've ever played?
It's such a hard question to answer, and I don't even know the name of the game. That's the problem with it. I believe it was for the Nintendo 64, but I could be wrong. I think it was, and it was an RPG. And this RPG had like I don't even know if it was for them, if it was Nintendo 64 or not, but it had like this card system. Okay. And it might have been 18 Chronicles: The First Mage, now that I think about it, but I could be completely wrong. The game itself, no, again, this was a while ago. Like when Nintendo 64 came out, when that game came out, is when I tried it, and it's basically, I don't remember much of in terms of any real tutorial to kind of help you get a feel for the game at all. Just kind of go about and do stuff. So I did the best I can to learn it, and it was really weird because you had it was literally, you had cards. Like, you had characters, a party. I don't know if it was a party or one dude, I keep forgetting. But and then you had cards. And you couldn't do anything unless you had the card to do it. It wasn't like Magic the Gathering, you give someone a goblin or whatever. It was like the card was your abilities. Mm-hmm. But and it was a use once, run out for that battle type of thing. But you could only have like 6 or 7 cards or something like that, and it was really kind of a pain to try and get new cards. It just left you running around in circles. It had the random battle encounter thing, which was the worst thing about it, because here you are trying to figure out your card system for your guy, and you have these random battles, and healing was a real pain to do in that game. So you're running around like half dead going, just stop with the battles. I can't do this. And it wasn't fun at all. It wasn't fun to play. I couldn't even figure out what the story was, because I'm pretty sure I went from like dark and murky woods type of area, like ooh scary, to like a city where you could do like gambles to get more cards for your ability. It was really weird. And I don't know the name of it. I don't think it was Aiden the First Mage. I don't even know if it was for the Nintendo 64. I'm thinking it was because I didn't really rent any PlayStation games because I never had a PS2. And I don't really remember renting PlayStation 1 games. But at the same time, I also have no idea about what it is at all, because it was one of those games that when you saw it, this is back in the days when people actually went to like a Hollywood Video or a Blockbuster or stuff like that. It was one of those games that you went down there and you went, I've never heard of this. It's got cool cover art. Let's give it a whirl. And I literally knew nobody else has played this game, so that's my game.
My worst game that I ever played was Shenmue for the Dreamcast.
Why does that sound familiar?
It was that game where you walked around doing nothing while your grandpa's murderer ran free. It was kind of bad. There was a video at one point where some guy was making fun of like the character.
Yeah.
Because at one point in the thing, you have to find someone who speaks Mandarin Chinese. And the whole game is just running around a neighborhood asking people if they speak Mandarin. And it was just, it got you in this gripping story in the very beginning. You're like, holy crap, this dude just killed my dad or my grandpa, I forget who. I gotta go and get revenge on this dude. And then the game just stops. It's like, I'm gonna go find Callie now. Walk. And you have to, like, travel to the 5 locations on the map, like, 20 times till you can find her, and you don't even talk about the fact that your dad is dead type of thing. And he decides to go to New York. Like, I never left the first stage, because I was so, like, I'm done with this game. The game was so long and tedious, because there was just so much filler crap going on.
Right.
And it just... nothing ever happened.
Okay.
And again, like, the game's missions were so plain that it didn't tell you what you had to do.
Oh yeah, those are always
where it's like, I am moving tomorrow. I should probably go around town. And do what? Exactly? And this was before, like, Game FAQ was around, so it was really hard to figure out what you had to do in this game.
Now, when you said that, that actually reminded me of, because I blocked this game out of my mind, and when you said you basically go around and do nothing, like you just move around doing nothing, that reminded me of this Sega Genesis game, and this is actually the worst I played now that I think about it. And you might have played it or seen it. Pac-Man 2, The New Adventures.
I've never played Pac-Man 2.
Good. Because Pac-Man 2 is a game where it's not a maze game. It's a point-and-click style of game where you don't actually control Pac-Man. Like, Pac-Man just goes about his business, and you got to use a controller to point and click, which is the worst thing ever. But
yeah,
and you got to basically like open a door for him, or put something so it doesn't like make it so the manhole gets covered, because the manhole covers off of it. He's walking, and he has legs, and he's walking, and he's gonna fall down his manhole. But you got to do that. You got to fix it for him somehow, and you got to go around and do things. And, like, you start off, like, in his house or something, and he's just walking around doing stuff. Eventually, he hang glides. It's very, very weird because the gameplay is basically you have a slingshot. And that's how you interact with the world, or even Pac-Man himself. You can shoot him with the slingshot, which I think makes him, like rub his head and stop moving. And then, like, you use the slingshot to interact with the stuff, so you would shoot the slingshot to, let's say, the apple, to hit the apple to make it fall so something happens, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the problem is, it's billed as Pac-Man 2. And it's like, and so you're like, awesome, I get to play Pac-Man, and it's like a side-scrolling Pac-Man game. So you're thinking, okay, this would be kind of a cool side-scrolling platformer Pac-Man. No, it's a point-and-click, and it was terrible.
Let's see, I just actually found the back of the Super NES version of it. And its description is, enter an original animated adventure with the world's first video game hero, but the star of your cartoon has a mind of his own, and it's going to take all your skills and practice to carefully guide Pac-Man through this hilarious, action-packed cartoon adventure. With a revolutionary new character guidance interface, CGI, Pac-Man 2 is a game unlike anything you've ever experienced before. So step into Pac-Man's new, exciting, interactive cartoon world. It's a whole new way to play. And then the little sidebars are a fully interactive universe, including a wild ride in a runaway minecart. Take Pac-Man on some way-out adventures, including an intense hang-gliding flight. 1,000 different cartoon quality animations, including a superhero look. Bonus games, step into the Pac-Man City arcade and play the original Pac-Man, Mrs. Pac-Man in their entirety.
Right, and it's like and this is, remember, like you said, this is before the days of like we just had the magazines.
Yeah.
So if you didn't get the magazine at all, and you just went about trying out games as they came out, you would see this, and if you didn't read the back, because when you're a kid, you don't read the back of these things, you just see, it's Pac-Man, Pac-Man's awesome, I want to play some Pac-Man, and then you get horribly disappointed. And the thing is, the world, like they described, very nice. The drawing, the artwork is cool. It would have made a really cool side-scrolling platformer where if you controlled Pac-Man, but you don't. And this is a case of a game that people were obviously expecting something and got something completely different. And part of that would be part of the whole game's negative. A lot of people hated the game for it. Now, granted, this was a terrible idea for Pac-Man, but
most of the recent ideas for Pac-Man have been terrible ideas for Pac-Man.
Yeah, but this was really
even putting
bad.
him in Smash Brothers is bad.
I'll accept that over point-and-click Pac-Man game.
It is a little bit more tolerable, yes, but still I'm like, oh, because most of his attacks are him punching and not walking.
Yeah, I get you with that, but it's just, this was, and still is, probably the worst game I played because, A, I was not expecting it to be quite like this, B, you don't really get the point of it.
Yeah.
At all. Like, I don't understand what I did when I played it. And I got pretty far in the game, and I'm just sitting there going, what? Okay. And it was a bad time. But you know, a game I do like that I haven't played in a while, but I've been watching videos of it. Chrono Cross.
Chrono Cross.
That
was a good game.
It was a good game. Chrono Trigger I like a little bit more, but Chrono Cross, I liked it, but the only problem with Chrono Cross that kind of gave it a little bit of an issue when it first came out is it was billed as the sequel to Chrono Trigger, and so people were expecting you're Chrono and you're running around as in the game when you're not at all. And the thing about it is that also made it a little bit confusing is that in the Chrono series you have Chrono Trigger, which was the first one.
Yep.
And then you had a Japanese exclusive game called Radical Dreamers.
Yep.
And Chrono Cross is a kind of a redo slash, it's kind of a remake slash continuation of Radical Dreamers. So it's a sequel. It becomes Chrono Trigger's successor, but it does it by basically remaking Radical Dreamers, which none of us here in America knew anything about. So the character Surge is from Radical Dreamers. And Lynx and all the characters and kind of the overarching world in a way that you experience in Chrono Cross is from Radical Dreamers, and you're going, where's Chrono?
When I played it, I never played Chrono Trigger, so when they actually appear in the game, I'm just like, who are these people?
Yeah, right. But Chrono Trigger, I really enjoyed a lot, and Chrono Cross, I really liked the way the system was, the element grid, and the fact that you didn't really level up.
I also liked in that game, you just gained extra abilities in that game. You never really, leveled up in it.
Yeah.
But what I really, really liked was, it was a minor thing. It was at one point when you have to fight the evil Masamune possessing that knight dude that the girl loved.
Yeah.
So, if you play that part, the trick to beating him was you put the girl in your party because he doesn't attack her, because he remembers her as his girlfriend.
Right.
And I'm like, that is a cool element. The fact that he won't, like, he basically ignores her even if she attacks him until she's the only one left.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's a cool concept to take in, going, basically factoring in the fact that they used to, that he knows who she is and they were lovers.
Exactly. I like that. I also like and it's not the first RPG game to be non-linear-esque and going to the end, but I like how, like, there was multiple, like, there's just like
multiple endings.
You know, and like Chrono Trigger, multiple endings and multiple ways to go about going to a similar conclusion. Like, for one example is, if you don't try to get the island for the subhumans, the demi-humans back, where what you do is you do this whole big quest setup, and then you kill off these nightmares, and then the Black Dragon wakes up.
Mm-hmm.
Problem is, when the Black Dragon wakes up, now you have to fight the Black Dragon to get the Black Dragon relic to progress the story plot.
Yep.
But if you don't do that plot at all, the dragon's asleep, all you gotta do is take the relic while he's sleeping. So you can completely bypass a whole boss battle and progress it, which I found kind of cool. I like that concept. And the fact that you could steal, because you had a couple characters who could steal stuff, and stealing was really important on certain characters to get really, really strong things.
Yeah, to get some of the items that would be useful later.
And another thing I really liked about the game is just the way characters joined your party. Because there's like 45 characters in that game, which is ridiculous.
There were so many
which
characters.
Is absolutely ridiculous. But that part was crazy. Because there were characters that, when I played, I never got, because I didn't know they were characters you could get. Because they seemed like mundane people in a town. Nope, those are characters. All right, so that's fine. But instead of just saying so-and-so joined your party, they do that every so often. But they did it in theme for a lot of the characters. Like, one of them was a little fairy. And they speak like, I'm very sorry instead of very unfair, and they go tee-hee a lot. So it goes, so-and-so joins your part tee-hee, like stuff like that. Or another character is a soldier, and it's like so-and-so enlisted into your party. So I liked it wasn't just, you got a character. It kind of put it in theme with it a little bit. Like, if you had a surfer dude who'd be like, yo, dude, or whatever, join your party. And stuff. And, like, I liked that they did, it's just the little things that they put in there to kind of make it, to spice it up, and I like that about Chrono Cross a lot. But the game definitely was long. It was like a 2 CD game, and back when it came out, which was like 2000, that was a long game, and 45 or so. It's high for it.
I still have my PlayStation version game.
Yeah, I still have it back home, but it's like 45 characters. Wow. Like, I eventually got the strategy guide, because at one point I got completely lost. Because the one thing about Chrono Trigger and Chrono Cross, because I played Chrono Trigger back when it came out, and Chrono Cross, all that anyway, is that those games were not very good for kind of leading you to where you got to go. It wasn't like today where you can just go to the objective menu and go, do this. The game was like, all right, so we got to save the world. So what do we do next? I don't know, figure it out. Okay. So I got completely lost, and that's how I discovered how many characters there were in the game. I'm like, you've got to be crazy. All right, then. But, but that was a fun game. I missed the Chrono series, to be honest with you. Chrono Trigger, they actually made one for the DS, I believe, where they actually added another boss to it. Yeah, and
PlayStation got Chrono Trigger with the Toriyama animated scenes at one point.
Yeah, they got that. With the FMVs, which are cool. And another thing I like about Chrono Trigger, Chrono is one of the few characters of that time, especially, and I think the only character in that game that is 100% confirmed to be left-handed. And it doesn't matter, because they put these bios for these characters in the games a bit, And it never comes up as a mechanic in the game. It's not like you need a left-handed person to beat this boss. But I just like the fact that they were like, this guy's left-handed, this guy's ambidextrous, this guy's right-handed. I just like
him and Link are the only left-handed characters I'm aware of.
Yeah, me too. Which is being a left-handed person, I'm like, huzzah! But it's funny because they put those in those bios, but I have yet to find a game where that actually matters. Like in an RPG or an action RPG, the only time it kind of matters is in FPSs where you can switch hands, because then you can hide in one corner and shoot out, or hide in a different corner. But it doesn't break anything. It's not like it's critical to do it at all.
Yeah.
So I just love when they make these little character bios, especially like when they tell you their blood type, and it's like, does this really matter? This is great. I like
it does.
Like I like the fact that you go into this, but it's not like never in Mortal Kombat have I fought somebody who was AB and I lost the game because they were AB blood type. You know, it's not like my only weakness. But they have like the blood type for all the Mortal Kombat characters, which is just cool. I like that little extra thing, but it's never a plot in the game.
Now, speaking of that stuff, some interesting things have been popping up in the world of hobbying. Space Hulk is coming back.
Yeah,
with a limited edition revamp, with extra tokens for those who bought the last version to go, oh, now I need this one.
Anyways, it's like the only thing I was worried about when I first heard about this, and then when they finally showed it on the GW site, I was like, oh, whatever. I was worried about if you add extra managers, I'm gonna be really pissed, but they didn't. So really, there is no need to get this thing if you already have it.
Yeah.
If you don't have it, what's wrong with you? Why didn't you get on board the first time?
For some reason, for me, Space Hulk never appealed to me. It's one of these things where if someone has it, I'll play it, but I was never interested in owning a copy.
Right. I like it. I like that setting. The thing I like about it is, is the fact that it's not just, hey, here's a board game, so here's some, ipso facto pieces representing Gene Stealer. It's not like it's giving you cardboard cutouts for the characters. You got full-blown plastic models that can work in Blood Angels or any type of Tyranid Force. Now, my problem with that is I would have loved the Space Hulk Terminators to be generic. Like, let it be Blood Angel, but let it be generic enough that anybody could take them, because these are some of the best, even now, still, some of the best sculpted Terminators they've done.
I do like that they're sending out a new mission piece where you can play as the Ultramarines, the Space Wolves, and the Dark Angels with different weapon upgrades and different gear and stuff like that. I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah,
and because back in the olden days of Space Hulk, it was just like this, but then we had a Deathwing expansion and then a Space Wolf expansion. And we had expansions for what they're doing now, back in the olden days. But, of Space Hulk and Space Crusade. The one thing that keeps me from playing Space Hulk a lot, or even really trying to get seriously involved in it, is the facing issue, where you have to have the face forward. That's how they're looking. So, which is something you can easily get around. It's the board. It makes total sense. Why it's just a board, to be used because of reasons. But I would have loved if this game came with if that was terrain. Keep it super constricted, and that would have been fantastic. But I really enjoy the whole Space Hulk thing. I think it's a great way for people who like 40K, but really don't care too much about a full-on war game. I really don't care too much about factions, really. If they're a diehard Orc or Tau fan, then Space Hulk's not going to do anything for you. But if you like the overall atmosphere of 40K, and Space Hulk can do a lot for you, because it really captures the there is only war. It really captures the grimness, because you're literally in a hallway, one Terminator wide. I mean, you really have a desperate feel to what's going on. So I think it does well in that regard. I I like how they're saying again limited numbers, and I hope that and my hope with Space Hulk when it first came out was that it would have kind of just been like not a specialist game again, but like something always there, because I would like to see expansions for this.
That's one of the things that kind of stops me from picking a lot of these games that are not 40K that GW releases, is because they're always limited releases. And I'm like, oh, well, then I guess I'm not getting it because I don't have a job where I can just buy your $200 limited edition thing every time.
Right.
And plus also there's always, well, nowadays because of how GW's been doing, it's not so much as true, but beforehand, it used to be, well, if you weren't there 2 minutes after it went up, good luck, it was gone.
Yeah, well, when Space Hulk first came out, I believe they had a set number that they set off the bat.
Yeah.
This one doesn't have a set number. So
yeah, no, this one doesn't seem to be... Well, it says this product is limited to 3 per person, but it doesn't say limited quantities.
Yeah. It could be a time thing, a limited time thing.
Yeah. But again, I never liked those, to be honest.
Oh, they're always a pain because it's like it makes you kind of, do I get, like, the problem with it is because it has no ties for anybody playing in wargaming to any wargaming, aside from the models will look cool for you to use in your standard game, which you could do. That aside, there's no other incentive for somebody to pick this up aside from being interested in playing Space Hulk. And Space Hulk is a very casual type thing, you know, like you do it once or twice and you go, okay, I'm done for a bit, and you do it again. Still, for its price point, it's a very good deal when you consider just 11 Terminators and a Terminator Librarian. It's $125. Terminator kits are 5 men. You're almost fully covered just if you look at the cost of getting that number of Terminators. You know what I mean? Of just generic Terminators. And especially if you're a Blood Angel, this is your chance. I would say if you're a Blood Angel player, you should pick up Space Hulk for the sheer fact of using these Terminators in your 40K game. Forget playing Space Hulk. Because, you know, really look at the cost of a Terminator kit, because Blood Angels don't have their own Terminator kit yet. So you're getting 11, not counting the Terminator. I don't believe that's counting the Librarian. I believe the Librarian is the 12th one. Yeah. So when you look at that, a Terminator squad is $50.
Yeah.
And that's either shooting or assaulting. Here you're getting a mix mash. So okay, $100 to get 10 Terminators. We still have 2 more. So that's $100. Now we have an HQ, essentially that's a Terminator. So if we compare that to the Terminator Librarian HQ model, which is $22, you almost have the full cost of this game just in 11 models. And you have 1 extra model here from Space Hulk for your Terminator guys. Plus you got Tyranids and a game to play with these models if you wanted to on top of a game you're playing. So if you're a Blood Angel player or a Tyranid player, I think it's a pretty good, especially for the space Marine side, it's a good value. I would like to see expansions for this. I'd love to see Space Hulk be Space Hulk and then Space Hulk Deathwing and then Space Hulk Wolves of Fenris, Space Hulk Ultramar, you know what I mean? And then have limited release, not in so far as limited to just Space Hulk release models with that you buy in that kit. Like, because I would obviously, I don't know what their plan is limited here, but if the whole shtick was you'll never see these models in a regular kit, I'm okay with that because that's kind of the appeal to buy this game.
Yeah, and that's a little different than going, you only have 2 days.
Well, exactly, but that's what I would hope if Space Hulk becomes a standalone thing, and then you can go ahead and then you have expansions. And it makes more sense to me with Space Hulk that they could do something like that, because it does have a pretty close enough direct link to the war game. The models themselves can be utilized in 2 different armies. Fair enough. I think that's a close enough link. I think part of the problem that Dreadfleet suffered is literally nothing in that is usable outside of Dreadfleet.
Yeah. So, which is one of those things where I don't see why it had to be a limited release in that front. Like, I think Dreadfleet would have done better if it was just a game that you could purchase. Because, like, let's just say for argument's sake, everyone, a lot of people nowadays are complaining about fantasy, saying it's not that great of a game anymore. Well, if Dreadfleet was a popular game, then it was still relatively available, people would go, well, I'm not interested in fantasy. Let's pick up Dreadfleet. It's close enough.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that. I can see that argument. I could also see that Dreadfleet was very self-contained in what it is.
Yeah, it is very, I've just read through the rules. Even the missions are actually telling you what ships to play in each one.
Right.
It says, for this mission you must play the Heldenhammer and the Black Kraken.
Right, and it's just also the idea of Dreadfleet is very self-containing in that this is not overarching. This is some dude's grudge, basically.
Yep.
Space Hulk, there's countless Hulks out there. Tyranids are numberless. Blood Angels and other Space Marine chapters are always doing this. So I can see this becoming a game that they just offer. Because it's easy enough to go, well, why are they doing this? Well, they're purging a Space Hulk. Okay, fine, they're fighting. With Dreadfleet, the problem with Dreadfleet is that it's so driven by this one character's story.
Yeah. But I find that's mostly the issue with practically all of fantasy, in my opinion.
Well, no, I don't find the issue to be all of fantasy. I find the issue of Warhammer Fantasy, being that it's very... People, and it's funny because fantasy players always used to say fantasy is better to play than 40k because there's tactics to it.
Yeah.
And people say that about other war games now in relation to 40k. Don't play 40k, there's no tactics to it. Which is a whole load of malarkey, because every game has different style of tactics. You're not going to use the same 40k tactics that you would utilize in fantasy, or you're not going to use the same fantasy tactics that you would utilize in War Machine. You can't. They're totally separate games. But it's funny because fantasy, I've always viewed it as, okay, have a really strong wizard if you're going to do magic, whatever it is. I view it as kind of very transparent in its tactics and very cumbersome, because it does a good job of representing, I'm just going to use the word legions because people understand that means a lot. It does a very good job of representing legion upon legion versus, legions. You have your whole massive Bloxo dudes facing off against other Bloxo dudes, because this is what they did back in the day. There's ancient fighting where they just had massive block formations crash into each other. And it does a decent enough job with that. But I find outside of positioning and maneuvering a little bit, the whole wheeling thing or whatnot, I find it's very limiting. I find the problem with fantasy is that it's just one world, which is not a problem of the fantasy genre, but like you said, it seems kind of driven by stories of certain characters. And in a sense, I feel the only reason that kind of comes up is because there's a very limited amount of space on one planet, right? And you have way more abstract factions in fantasy than you do in 40k, because you have the Imperium, right? It's made up of the Imperial Guard, because I don't want to call its new name. It's got the Imperial Guard, the Inquisition, Battle Sisters, and then Space Marines everywhere, right? But they're all pushing towards one goal, which is the Emperor is awesome, kill everything else. That's their basic goal. That's their two commandments. The Emperor is awesome, kill everything else. Claim the galaxy. You got the Eldar, who are kind of like, we're so important that we're going to manipulate everything else to do what we need to get done because we're nearly extinct, because our bad for Slaanesh.
And we're the only ones worth saving.
Exactly. Our bad for Slaanesh, but we're going to save ourselves by utilizing everything else.
Yep.
And you have the Dark Eldar, who are kind of like, we're just going to party.
We're going to party hardy and make sure that you get caught instead of us.
Yeah, we're going to party really hard, and we're just going to take a bunch of slaves. We basically give in to these excess, but we still hate chaos. And then you have, Tyranids consume everything. Orcs, we just want to fight stuff. Then you have chaos side. You have Tyranids. Tyranids who are going to consume Tau, who are just trying to make
everybody get along.
Yeah, they want everybody to get along. They want to make their claim of the galaxy as well.
Yep.
And while it sounds like this is a lot of different factions, they all have the same idea: survive and conquer. And chaos is the big bad for everybody. You know, Necrons will fight. Necrons will join forces with Eldar to fight against chaos if it has to, or against Tyranids if they have to. Space Marines will join forces with Eldar to fight against Tyranids. Like, there's the big bads, and the big bads are chaos and Tyranids. Mm-hmm. The Necrons, you could say, are a big bad, but they're like a slumbering big bad. That's kind of more of a get off my lawn big bad right now.
Yeah, they're only an issue if you happen to be in a sector of the universe that they used to run.
Which is the entire. But I mean, it's really only an issue if you're in a certain sector where they're awoken. You know.
Yeah.
And if they're awake, and you're on, especially if they're awake and you're on one of their planets, then it becomes an issue. But and they're slowly becoming more and more of an issue because more and more are waking up. So that's great. So you have the three big bad that fight amongst each other as well. And then you have the other side, which is the side of order, you could say, which fight amongst itself. And it's still pretty simplistic. Now, and this is from an outsider looking into fantasy, first off, we have the lizardmen.
Yep.
You know, and those got the old ones in there, and the Slan and all, whatever they're called. And that's all one faction doing their own thing. And then you have humanity. And the thing I like about 40K is humanity is basically one big faction with sub-factions in it that might fight each other. They might go renegade. Mm-hmm. And, you know, they can go good or bad, but it's either you're Imperial or you're traitor scum. Pretty simple. Yep. Here you have the Empire, Bretonnians, and you have different factions within that. And then you have the Tomb Kings, which were guys that are dead. And you have the Vampire Counts, and they were guys, and now they're vampires. And then you have three different elves, which I love Warhammer Fantasy's elves. And they have the dwarves, and it's just that everything feels like they're trying to get their own slice of the pie. Whereas you have the Imperium is looking for their pie, period, but everything there is working towards it. And then you have other factions basically doing stuff similar to fantasy, but it just feels more intertwined fully. You have pseudo-Egyptian and pseudo-Aztec fighting each other out of nowhere. It just feels very out of time, you know? It feels... And then you have the Empire and the Bretonnians, which, you know, which I think fantasy players should forgive you for if you think they're the same thing, because they look so similar. You know, they're humans. They must be together. They're not, apparently. Then you have the Skaven, the Skaven also utilize warp, but it's not like the warp we know in 40K. Then you have the Forces of Chaos, which are the same.
Break down into...
yeah, and they're broken down into 4 separate sub-factions. And it's not... And yes, you might be saying it's the same in 40K. But all this, keep in mind, is on one world. Like, all this is contained in one world. In 40K, they have the luxury of having all these disjointed factions and still a lot of factions warring against each other because it's a span of a galaxy. You know? Yeah. You can have a whole sector just devoted to the Imperium. You can have a whole sector just devoted to Tau stuff and Tau policy. Mm-hmm. You can't do that in fantasy.
No.
And that's my issue with it, is that I don't feel it's necessarily character-driven story. I mean, Nagash is such a big character driving a story, so that hurts my argument. But I feel the problem is that the world ain't big enough for all this story going on in fantasy. Like, that's my problem with it. And,
I could agree with that.
Like, and don't get me wrong, and this is coming from somebody who absolutely loves the Tomb Kings. Like, they're my favorite thing from fantasy. They're one of my favorite fantasy things, period, in terms of genre of fantasy. I really like the concept of them. But I have no desire of playing it because it just feels so disjointed. Like, I don't really see a reason why the Tomb Kings would venture into the Aztec jungle to fight the lizardmen, you know? I don't really see Beastmen seem like an army that really should only be fighting the Wood Elves and occasionally the Bretonnians when you look at their story. Yeah. And that's part of my problem. Like, you have the Tau. They'll fight against everything because they're trying to make their own empire. You have the Eldar. They fight against everything because everything is beneath them. And everything is connected. Yeah, everything's connected. You have Chaos that just want to consume the galaxy, so of course you're going to fight everything. You have Tyranids who just see everything as food. You have Orcs who are addicted to fighting. And you have the Imperium who's xenophobic and wants to have their own galaxy. So everything will fight each other with no problem. Like, I'm not saying Beastmen would not fight high elves, but you always read about, whenever I see Beastman story coming along for whatever it is, it's them and the Wood Elves hate each other, and the Bretonnians live by the Wood Elves, so they hate the Beastmen too. It's just like, that's about it. It's like, the Beastmen seem like they should be part, like the Beastmen and the Ogre Kingdoms, while two separate things, it just seems like there's too many breakdowns, you know, like,
yeah,
you have things that I think could be linked together as just subhuman, like a subhuman book, and that's what you build it up as, just to cut it down a little bit. But you can't. I'm not a fantasy player. I don't really understand it, aside from the fact of watching it and looking at it and going, that's a lot of miles of pain for any army. So any army, every army there is a horde army. Let's just face it. It's just really impossible to you have the ability to potentially go really small, but then you lose. So it is just, I look at everything and it's like, that's too much stuff to paint.
And also, we got some new stuff coming out from Forge World, specifically the Archmagos Drakavic and the Archmagos, which I have a bit of an issue with that model's naming for a little bit.
Why?
Because they changed it on us. It's a silly, stupid thing. He's called the Archmagos because he went crazy and went evil.
Well, that's not why he's called the Archmagos.
Yeah, but originally it was the Archmagos, and then it was the Magos Prime that he turned into. And if you look on the instruction sheet, it still calls the Magos Prime, but they switched him on the description sheet and changed it to just the Archmagos. So I'm like, so which one is it?
Yeah, well, basically, they made it a special character. Drakavic, whatever his name is.
I'm going to say Drakavic.
Sure. And then, which is a traitor. But then they made it also, if you just switch the head out, he can be a generic Archmagos.
Yes. I just hate that for the first 2 days, it was a Magos Prime, and now it's an Archmagos. I'm like, so what is it? But if you click on the little, see his instructions here, it still has him listed as a Magos Prime. And I'm like, so which is it? Make up your mind.
Well, Archmagos is a Magos Prime. Like, it's just, they probably just figured just call him Archmagos for generic instead of Magos Prime. But, this is, looking at because I have looked at his instructions before, it's one of the more detailed instructions from Forge World I've seen.
The only thing, there's only one bit it doesn't explain to you where it goes.
Right, which is, like...
Bit number 12.
Which is a godsend compared to everything else they offer in the Forge World.
It is true, but I'm just sitting there looking at it, because, like, they have this one bit, the, bit number 12 on the, sheet, which is, let me pull it up.
I see where it goes.
Abinet support strut times 4.
Yeah.
And I see here on the image, but there's 6 of them on there.
It looks like there's 6 of them on there.
There's 3 on each side. No, there's 4 on each side. And I'm like, wait a minute, there's 4 on each side of this thing, but you only give me 4 separates. Where do these 4 go?
Yeah, that's the issue there. But like,
you need to buy the model to know where it goes.
But I have to say, bravo, actual instructions for assembling something from Forge World.
Now, for people who are sitting there going, wait, they give us instructions before, they don't actually point and tell you what piece is what in the pictures. They just go, make sure the foot is assembled. Make sure the foot is assembled first. Okay, but what parts of the foot go on this piece?
Yeah, like the Titan instructions are...
They're the closest, because I think the body tells you what parts are what the body.
They're the closest. But then if you picked up something like a Tau battlesuit from Forge World, their specific ones, it shows you a picture. And like one picture where one piece goes out on the plastic for the first that. But then when they have like their own leg structure, it just shows a picture and you're kind of like, yeah, match the picture. Okay.
And the worst is also like the Primarchs. Like Fulgrim, they give you this tiny little card that tells you 2 things. And even those 2 things are not fully explained.
Yeah.
And then it goes, go to this site to get better instructions. And I go there and they don't exist.
I have to say, though, this Archmagos model is cool. I like that
we're getting... cool. I want to buy one.
I like that we're getting more about him, and I like the fact that they made it so he's, on purpose so he can fit in his little thing, his little diet or whatever, and he can come out of it.
And I like that they gave you that he's a Dark Mechanicum character, but they rigged it so he can be a Mechanicum character.
Yeah, I like that. And it's just, it's done well. He looks suitably different from what your standard mechanical stuff that we've seen, so that's nice as well. This is an added bonus.
Yeah.
It also screams very Mechanicum-y, but
yep.
While as cool as he is, the Triaros armor conveyor is still the coolest thing that I think Forge-World's done in a long time. Because it's
the tank?
The train tank, I call it, because it looks like a train.
Yep. It does look like a train. It is a train.
It's so cool. And I like that. I like the asymmetry of it, because it has the pintle on the thing is on its left instead of being in the center. It can still fire to 360, but I like that it's just asymmetrical, because typically, you know.
And it's got the little servo skull powered grav guns on the side.
I just really like them. It just looks fantastic.
It looks pretty cool. It does, like, after reading Titanicus, I'm like, you know what? I could see these things being the tanks they were in. Those characters that were just sitting in a convoy through the whole book. That's like, I could see them with these dudes.
Yeah, I like it because it's got a very retro look. You know, it seems very retro. It's something you see out of the 30s or 40s. But at the same time, it feels very Mechanicum-y. Like, it's like, as you see, it just seems complicated in terms of how this thing runs and operates. Like, it doesn't seem like something you would hand to an army. It seems like it's something you would keep for yourself. And it's just, I don't know. It
looks vintage.
It does look vintage, and it's just that front. The prow on the front is just what does it for me. I just really like that look a lot.
It does look pretty awesome. Like, I should never go on the Forge World site, because then I just spend money I don't have.
Right? Like, they do make good stuff, and the armor conveyor is what I would say is something I would want to get just to have it, and I have which is why I'm not gonna.
Yeah, like, if it wasn't for the sheer fact that I don't think I would be playing Mechanicum at all, because in the 40k universe, in the Horus Heresy, is the only reason why I haven't, like, gone out and bought more. Like, I'd probably buy a little bit for my regular army. I think that's the issue, is a lot of the cool models. Like, I would buy an Archmagos to be my HQ. You know, use those servitors that you gave me as his, like, retinue crew. But he's on a Terminator stand, so he's bigger than the character that it's supposed to be. Granted, that's okay. Like, most people won't really complain that you put him on a bigger stand, because that just means you limit where he can go.
Yeah.
But I hate the fact that it's on a bigger freaking stand.
You know, I hear you. But Forge World's definitely doing good stuff, and it's unfortunately it's stuff for the Horus Heresy, and I don't say that because I don't like the Horus Heresy. I love it, but I say unfortunately because, like, the stuff that was at Forge World's open house or European Games Day or whatever it was, where you saw, like, actual Imperial Army stuff for, like, being Imperial Army dudes, looks fantastic. But knowing the fluff, the Imperial Army is, while you could just say it's Horus Heresy's Imperial Guard, it's a bit different. Not different enough where they're unusable. That's not what I'm saying. But it's really cool looking, but it's for the 31st millennium. And especially for the Imperial... I mean, you could just take that and make your own Imperial Guard regiment out of it. But it's unfortunate, you know, because...
That's one of the issues I'd say is with it now, is, like, you sit there going, oh, this is so cool, but they don't exist anymore.
Yeah, like the Imperial Army doesn't exist like that anymore. You can easily just say this is a regiment from some world. And and it gives fantastic opportunities for Imperial Guard players to go, well, I don't like Catachans, and everybody does Cadians or Death Corps, and I don't really want to, you know, and doing, let's say, the whatever the other one was called, that they offer.
The Elysians?
Elysians, you know, maybe they not the biggest fan of Elysians too much. Or maybe, you know, they like the head, but they don't like the bodies. This offers yet another option, which is fantastic.
I think, to be perfectly honest, in my opinion, the most easily usable, like, stuff for the Space Marine units are the Traitor Legions. because you can get more your Legion-themed characters in your Chaos armies. Yes
and no. My problem with the Traitor Legion stuff, as they are Legion Astartes, so like for example, the Emperor's Children or the Death Guard stuff, is while it looks cool and you can definitely use it, that's not the Death Guard symbol anymore. That's not what they do anymore. I find, in all honesty, the Loyalists you get a lot of use out of because everything that's symbol-wise is the same. Like outside of, for example, the Iron Hands Gorgon Terminators, you can't equip Terminators with those type of close combat weapons like that.
Yeah.
That aside, you could just still buy those models and just do a weapon swap to make them making Thunderhammer Storm Shield or Stormbolt or Power Fist if you wanted to use them in 40k. And you get a lot of, let's face it, the Space Marines have it easy. They can use anything they want, really. You could
pretty much.
You could even make a case for having the Emperor's Children Mark IV heads in a different force completely, just because they're fancier heads, So, Space Marines get it real easy on this for anything Horus Heresy that comes out. They have really the best options.
True enough.
But, like the World Leaders,
you could get away with their helmets and and all their stuff.
You can get away with most of their stuff. They're probably the ones.
Same with the Sons of Horus too. You could get away with using their generic stuff.
The World Leaders, I think, are the ones that have it the easiest because, the symbol is still a mouth.
And the Night Lords.
The Night Lords, yes, but I don't think any real. The Loyalists or Traitor, really, I don't think anybody has a particular advantage in terms of stuff they can utilize 30k or 40k. I just think Space Marines overall can utilize everything, no matter what time period it is, as opposed to, like, Imperial Army.
The Guard.
Or the Guard, or even Mechanicum, depending upon what was lost in the Heresy and what wasn't lost in the Heresy. Yep. And that's the big problem. And that's one of the things why I find my issue with 40k as the universe is you have this monumental event that could easily be a game just by itself. The Horus Heresy.
Yeah.
That's, for me, in certain cases, cooler than 40k because you have things like I like them, like the Thousand Suns. I like them the most when they were back then, and stuff and you have certain events unfolding, a massive story going on here that could just be a game in and of itself. All of this stuff that basically sets up for a 10,000 year long process to where you get to Warhammer 40k, and then therefore a lot of stuff that happened then you don't even have access to anymore. So it's like, ugh, what? This is annoying. But that's, I guess that's just the breaks for when having such a story built up with over like that.
And then one company finally deciding to do it.
Yeah, it's. I wouldn't say it was about time. I would in a sense, I think once the Black Library books really gained popularity like they did for a little bit, then you kind of like, okay, people are going for this. But really, when you think about it, the Horus Heresy, even back when there wasn't much fluff for it, because it was just like the Horus Heresy happened, and then now this happened, and now we're in 40k. Congratulations. Even when they didn't have anything to flesh it out, it was still this really important period of time.
What's another thing that sometimes irks me about Forge World just a little bit?
What's that?
There are some things that are on bigger stands than they should be. Like the World Bearers Possessed Legions, they're on Terminator stands. I'm like, but they're power armor. Why are they on Terminator stands?
Yeah.
You're making it really hard, Forge World, for me to buy your stuff for my 40k army. Because I was going to use those as possessed, and I'm like, oh, they're too big, they won't stand on a regular stand.
Yeah, that is the issue. But I do have to say, since we were talking about this because of fantasy a bit, before, I still think fantasy is a pretty cool thing. And I think that what's going on now with it, not knowing much with Nagash and basically this pushing
the End Times.
The End Times has been pushing that as a story. I think is really cool, and it's something that I've wanted to have happen in 40k for a while now. Because back in 5th edition, when 5th edition was coming out, and I was like, the edition that everybody's like, ooh, wow, and whatnot, it made mention to the time of ending, which is the end times of 40K. And that's when we really truly got the first glimpses of the problems with the Golden Throne and more alien and demonic incursions happening. Like, that's 5th edition is when we really had that glimpse. And back when we first got that glimpse, I'm like, okay, this is cool. Let's see what we can do storyline-wise. And we're still stuck at the 13th Black Crusade. Like, I'm not saying
reset the button.
I'm not saying the 13th Black Crusade can't be your big thing, but even in that story of the 13th Black Crusade, we have other events going on throughout the galaxy, and nothing's being pushed forward.
Supposedly, from what I heard, GW went back to the 13th Black Crusade because they felt that was the big, oh my gosh, it's coming moment and what's going to happen afterwards event, and that's what they wanted to maintain in the story arc.
I mean, it definitely was, but, like, for example, now, the Planet Killer was destroyed, but now it's simply disappeared. They changed certain things.
Yep, now it's being waiting.
Supposedly. The whole idea of that, it was a big, terrible naval battle went on, and it disappeared after that.
Yeah.
So nobody knows what happened to it.
Yeah, because its original part was it appeared in the Gothic universe, and then during the 13th Black Crusade it was destroyed. Because it was so slow, and the Imperium went, hey, we could just shoot missiles at this thing, and it can't dodge them. And now it's switched it up. Now we're not sure if it's still around or not.
Exactly. And then you have that, and now it's a stalemate. Like, the 13th Black Crusade, back when it had a mini-codex.
Yep. The Eye of Terror.
Yeah, had, basically, I don't want to say a full-on resolution, but it kind of was, pushed back at great cost. It was kind of kept in check. And now it's at a stalemate, which is fine. But let's actually push story forward a bit, people. We've been at the 13th Black Crusade since like 3rd edition. Let's push this thing forward a little bit. And that's why when I saw the thing from Fantasy, I thought that was really cool. I don't know what Fantasy players were thinking about it, but I thought that was cool. And it would be cool to see something like that happen in 40K. And it's not just 40K, and it's not just Games Workshop. I like for stories to get pushed forward in any system, Like, it's a dangerous ground to tread when you try in terms of progressing your plot. Because, I don't know, I'm just going to take War Machine as the example, right?
Yeah.
Let's say they're going to push the story forward. I'm not saying they aren't. Let's say they're going to continue pushing it forward. But in doing so, they write themselves into a certain way where, Nemo has to die. That would piss everybody off, even if they don't play him. And what does that mean now? Is he no longer a character usable in the next edition, or stuff like that? Like, and that's just that one example. And then like at BattleTech, what happens if the Draconis Combine gets wiped out? Does that mean when you push it forward? Like, it's dangerous to push things forward, but at the same time, things need to progress so you don't get stagnant.
That's one of the things that I like about the Privateer Press thing, also, just going off of that, is whenever they do an event like that, like if they make a new book and a new event pops in, at the very least, like they are probably doing with End Times, they throw in a campaign to act it out, so that you can decide what they have. Essentially, like the Dawn of War games, they have the canon ending. This is the ending we're going with. But then they have the multiple variety endings depending on what the outcome is on your end when you play it. And that's what I like with stories that have a continuous plot where they give you the option to you could either just use everything, or here's the plot we made, you can follow it if you want.
That's all fine and dandy, and that's great for campaigns.
Yeah.
Especially because, like, one thing I like about 40K is that when they had campaigns like the Medusan 5 one, they didn't have an ending for it. It all depended on the rankings of everybody's tournaments overall, which race had what happened to it, which was cool.
Yep. And
then sometimes you have a story-driven campaign, but we're going to let you decide, like the 13th Black Crusade, the Eye of Terror thing.
Yeah.
But I don't mean campaign-wise. I mean actually progressing timeline forward in new editions. Like, 5th edition was kind of trying to do that in 40K, for example. We were progressing. We actually progressed past the 41st millennium. You know, we got to 40, 99999999941, and we're actually going to tick a new year on. And then that kind of got staled. So, it's a dangerous prospect, but in a sense, once you have a certain thing for a certain amount of time, timeline has to progress. And we saw that, you could say we saw that with Sergeant Naaman. He's been gone for 2 editions now as a special character. He's in name.
Yep.
But finally, his character is gone. I say that because what's the point of having a dead character?
Yeah.
It doesn't, like, I don't know what they're going to do for the Blood Angels, because Taicho is supposed to be, he dies on the third War for Armageddon.
Or like with Eldrad, he was supposed to be dead a while ago.
Well, he dies in the
but he was still around.
Crusade.
Yeah.
Which has now been redone.
Yeah, they've been redone where it's just about to start, but I just like that. Like, that's what always pissed me off in the 5th Ed Codex. I'm like, why is he still playable if he's dead?
Yeah, and that was the thing with Taicho of the Blood Angels. And the thing that's interesting that I like, but at the same time is a problem for me, they offer him 2 modes. Him as a captain, and him when he fell to the Black Rage and become a Death Company guy, but like a super badass Death Company guy, because he has his own stat line. Okay, clearly both can exist at the same time. He doesn't just switch modes, so you have to pick, obviously, when you buy him, you have to pick one. Yeah. But while that's cool, it gives us the option. It's also like, well, where are we at the story with the Blood Angels at this point? And then he's supposed to be dead. He supposedly succumbs to his wound with the Death Company on some really big battle in the Third War of Armageddon against the Orcs. Yeah. But he's still available to play. Now, Taicho was a bit of a bigger character in comparison to Naaman. Naaman was just a scout sergeant. Taicho was a captain. Yep. So I don't know, there's some serious progressing we have to do to get the Blood Angels to have him wiped out as a character, but he has a model, so now, or he had a model, I don't know if he's still available, but he's had a model for a while. It might still be available.
I'm curious. I'm going to check.
So then what do? Do you make a new character who has a similar war gear so you can use the same model? Like there are certain, I guess, logistics in that regard to progressing story forward and killing off characters, but at the same time, you kind of have to do that. And Fantasy's talking, like, the thing that I liked about the whole fantasy end times thing is that it's brought about.
Taicho is still around.
Yeah, to buy. Okay, that's cool.
Yep.
But like Games Workshop has blatantly said,
we're not going to progress the story.
Well, with the end times, it blatantly said in the story as it goes forward, some of your favorite characters are going to die. It's just the way it's going to be, and it's just like, that's cool. I like that.
Unless you're vampire count, all their dudes are dead.
Well, so was the Tomb Kings. Herc. I know what you're saying.
Like, if you read their book, they go, and he met his end at, so I shouldn't play this dude because he's dead. Okay. I shouldn't play this dude because he is dead. I should never play any of these dudes. They're all dead.
Are you sure it didn't mean met his end and became a vampire?
No, this was when they were vampires.
Okay.
This was them being in their campaign, being all vampire-y, and they said they were finally destroyed at this battle. Well,
it's just like, I like that they are going to do that, and my philosophy with a game is, first off, your game has to succeed, right? You can't make a game and then next edition have story progress ridiculously like that. It takes time to progress the story. And first off, the game has to become popular enough and successful enough to warrant new editions and making stuff for it and people buying it and progressing story. So you're not going to be able to do it right away. But at the same time, I think story progression doesn't have to be anything drastic. It doesn't have to be, okay, so next edition, half the characters are dead, and we made new ones up to take their place. It doesn't have to go that crazy. But a story line should progress. And especially as the years take by, because 40K has been around for a while. And The nice thing is the Horus Heresy has finally gotten itself fleshed out, because it's never been fleshed out before.
Yeah,
like,
no.
In all honesty, what Forge World is doing, what the Black Library is doing, is completely new ground, because it's never been fleshed out before, which is ironic. Then we have other stuff like the Astropath Wars, which we know nothing about. And 40K has this timeline, you see, of stuff up to the modern 41st millennium and then within the 41st millennium. And a lot of stuff has some blurbs, and a lot of stuff also is just blurbs, and that's it. And it's just like, yep, Astropath Wars. We know nothing about this time period. What? Yep. This is a very big, like the biggest one that I always reference that I would love more information for. We have a couple of blurbs here and there. Is the time of the Twin Empires. This is when there were two Imperiums, because it got fractured for like a full 1,000 years. If that doesn't warrant a Forge World Imperial Armor book, I don't know what does. Yeah. We're talking about a time period when there was two Imperiums.
Yeah.
Of 1,000 years.
And the desire for a lot of that stuff has been like cropping up, like when they were doing the whole end times thing. Because they decided to use the word the Great Exodus, the 40K fans got excited that we're finally going to get a story arc about the Great Exodus that happened when the Eldar attacked.
Yeah.
And it's like, wait, and so, like, it seems like there's tons of stories out there that if they made stuff for, people would buy it.
Yeah, but unfortunately, a lot of these stories are stuff in the past. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, and while that's cool, I find it to be... And I don't mean to say this because 40K is perfect, not that at all. But that's the one problem with 40K. All the really cool stuff happened in the past already.
I guess you could say, in a sense, it could suffer from Star Wars syndrome, where everything in the past is really cool. Why don't we have it now?
Well, in a sense, yes. But I think also, like Star Wars, that syndrome arises more so due to the amount of time it's been around. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like 40K, I mean Star Wars as well, obviously. 40K is, what is it, 30 years now?
30K?
No. How many?
40K? Oh. 20. Well, they did their 25th anniversary with 6th edition, and that came out a year ago.
Was it? I thought the 25th anniversary was, I don't know when it came out. But anyway, we're approaching 30 years.
Roughly, yeah.
Which is the 40K is older than most of the people playing it. So, like that. Let's just put that into perspective there. And as you get older and you make more additions, and as somebody who likes to make content up for stuff, as you get older and get more editions of your book coming out for a game or whatever it is. Even if it's just supposed to be the 41st millennium. Okay, this is the 41st millennium. So what led us to this? Well, the Horus Heresy. Okay, we have that as a time period thing. You get kind of antsy. Well, we had 10,000 years between then and now. Let's put some names of other stuff in there just to kind of help flesh out a timeline a little bit, to kind of make it feel more official. And then as you get older, you do that, and you have some blurbs here and there, and you kind of maybe jump back to it here and there. But then, the issue arises, and you're right, Star Wars syndrome-like, is that we never pushed it forward to begin. We've been obsessed with what happened, that we're not focusing on what's happening. And
like I said, one of the biggest issues with it is then like a good example is just then like blah. Like a good example is just you introduce something. Oh, that's really cool. Well, we can't use it because that happened in this time period. That tech is gone.
Yeah,
or like in Privateer Press's theory, having regular Nemo using jacks that didn't exist until Epic Nemo came out. It's like, wait, what? Time paradox.
A little bit, yeah. And that's my biggest problem with Privateer Press with that stuff. Is just having the different Nemos or the different whoever's. I get it. It's like, this is a one-time point, and now at this time point you decided to do this. Well, then let's just forget the other time points. It's not, we don't have 4 different Belials to choose from. It's just Belial.
And you can't. And one of the things is you can't really do something like because you would hurt a lot of your fan base. You can just simply do let's just say, for example, Belial. There was Belial Scout Unit. Belial, when he was company master, he had his own special unit. and then you make him Terminator armor. You can't just simply go, this unit only exists if this model counts, type of thing, because then you get people confusing and, wait, I can't use this unless that's here, and it just then brings up the question, then what's the point of it being in the book? And it just causes more issues, and then you need like a flow chart and a lawyer to figure out what you can and can't use.
Right, which is one of my issues with War Machine, with having the 4 different levels of one character. It's like, but let's just have the character at his present time. Why can't we just do that, everybody else? Like, why can't we just relax and just have Nemo at present time Nemo, and if you had older Nemo, too bad, you know? Like, yeah, I can't go to an older Dark Angel Codex and go, I want to run this Belial. You know, I can't do that.
Yeah.
Like, so just run the standard. But, so that's that with the Nemo stuff. And the other issue I have, like you said, that tech is gone. The Horus Heresy books from Forge World are great. I love them. It's Warhammer 30K. It's basically a game by itself.
Yep.
But it has Volcolite Chargers and Volcolite Cavaliers and whatever they're called, Cuvaliers or whatever it is. These guns that don't exist in 40K timeline. And it's just because they lose it for whatever reason. And stuff like that. And they have plasma that works a little bit differently, and with some other plasma. Not that it works differently, they have the plasma gun, but they have like a plasma thingy. And it does something different. And then they have melee weapons, which do something different. And the weirdest thing is, they have these melee weapons, and they have a few different types of, let's say, swords. They have like these different type of edges and things and different rules. And we have them in 40K. They're called relic blades. And but the relic blade is just this is an incredibly ancient sword from the time of the Horus Heresy. And it's like, but which one is it? Because now we have rules of these different swords, so which one are we representing? So we're kind of having this issue, and I would love to see 40K progress, because you know it's going to happen, and I know it's going to happen. When they eventually decide to go to end times, the Lion's waking up, Gulliman's going to heal from his wounds, which I have no problem with. Yes, he's in stasis, but he's a demigod. Why not? You know, he's gonna. If they don't wake him up, they're dumb. You know, because that's a huge plot point right there that they use. So you're gonna have 2 Imperial Primarchs that are going to be in the Imperium and alive and going, "Yo, what's up?" Then you have the ones that are on exile or lost that aren't dead. The other ones that aren't dead, that are just lost for whatever reason. Maybe they'll come back at certain times, whatever. Then you have the Demon Primarchs who have been doing nothing for the longest, to suddenly wake up and go, "Oh, right, I got that thing to do." And then they're going to do that, and then you're going to have, hopefully, we would see Necrons fully awakened, or the Tyranid High Fleets, or the Tyranid's main body reach the galaxy, because the whole fluff of them is that these are just the very tip of the iceberg.
Yep.
So now we're going to
more coming.
So it'd be really cool with the time ending if the iceberg shows up, because like, the iceberg right ahead. What are we going to do? So you have all these huge plot points they could definitely utilize, titanic, massive plot points that they could do in the time ending. And everybody kind of has an idea of what's going to happen. So I think, as far as the people who make up the story for 40K, they should cinch up their boots and everything and start writing and start getting stuff to come out and progress it, because, and it's just my theory here, you may not agree, the longer we have to our own devices to imagine what's going to happen, the harder it's going to be to please people.
Very true.
Because it's going to be like, well, that's not how I saw it. Well,
but then again, on the other issue there is if they actually end it, then where does it go from there?
Oh yeah, but you know, I think the name End Times and Time of Ending is a little bit misleading, because it's just like the Mayan calendar ending. It's supposed to be a new period. A new era is coming out of this. So this could be just the start of something new. And it can still be called 40K. And, you know, we don't have to kill off everything.
But again, the issue is, like, with that is also, then, you know, what changes? And as we've seen on the internet, a lot of people don't like when things get changed. They
don't like change, but they also don't like things not moving forward. It's very hard to please the internet.
Because it's like one of those things, like, because you get with those issues, well, the end times happened, and let's just say, for argument's sake here, the Eldar were nearly destroyed, and all the striking scorpions are gone. Oh, great, now my $500 worth of striking scorpions are now useless to me.
Right.
Type of thing.
Oh, yeah, no, there's always that issue, and I feel, and I'm not an expert game developer. I don't have a background that says, "Hey, I know what I'm talking about." But you don't have to change to that degree. Like, you can keep every unit that exists. You can essentially keep or make it so they can easily be utilized somewhere else. And a good and you can't do it for everything. Like striking scorpions, you can't just say, "Well, the striking scorpions are gone."
Yeah, no.
So we make like. And in this picture, this is like the Protoss. We don't have dragoons, so we're going to make immortals, right?
Yeah.
So you could kind of do something like that with the striking scorpions in that example. But you could also do stuff where it makes more sense, like the Necrons. There's no more pariahs. So what do you do with your pariah models? Well, the Triarch Praetorians, whatever those things are, they kind of fit the bill. They have similar war gear. You can use those to represent that. Really,
or Cryptek.
Yeah, really not that big of a deal at all. So it all depends on what army we're talking about on what unit.
Yeah.
And so that's the issue that 40K has. And being an outsider looking in a Privateer Press, I think, actively has the same issue with the 4 different levels of all their casters. Because
I think, like I said, I think the only issue with the caster in that front is, again, like through the story, certain models didn't exist when these characters arrived, so then you have to explain why older versions have higher tech than the newer tech.
Well, right. That's the thing. Like, that's the issue. What I mean is that makes no sense to me. Like, if this is I'll just use Nemo because I know his name. That's the only reason why I'm picking on Nemo, because I know his name. This is Nemo from 10 years ago, let's just say.
Yeah.
And this Jack is the newest. This is Nemo from 2010, and this is a 2015 model Jack. You know, like 2015 edition, brand spanking new. And this 2010 Nemo would have really good rules for that, but too bad, so sad. It's 2015. Nemo doesn't do that. You know?
Yeah.
Like, that's how I view it. Again, I just think I kind of sort of see what they're going with, but to me that adds a level of, and like you were saying before, it adds kind of a level of confusion even for established players, because if you play a Nemo that people just abandoned for the new shinier Nemo, you can have players who have no idea what you're doing because you're not playing the same Nemo. Like you said, when you were using the Jack Nemo or something like that, they're saying, well, why are you using this, and why aren't you using this spell? Well, because I don't have it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yep.
That'd be like me going, well, why isn't Belial in Turn Hour? Oh, because I'm playing Third Company Belial. Wait, what?
Yeah.
It's like, excuse me?
One thing, though, I will say, and I think it would be really cool, like, in the next edition, because we all know it's going to happen, with codexes getting new editions and all that. I think it would be really cool if relics, like down the line, you know, going to be down the line, when we have more of the chapters established, that their chapter relics actually become pieces of items that were in the Horus Heresy version of them.
I think I get what you're saying.
Like let's just say, I'm just going to say for argument's sake, let's just say in the Dark Angels edition of Horus Heresy, they have a special plasma blade. Okay? It's a sword that has some sort of plasma-y rule to it type of thing. Right. It basically makes plasma into close combat.
Okay.
The next, when that comes out, the next codex for Dark Angels, make that one chapter relic for them.
Oh, no, that would be cool. And
you know, because then you would be connecting the worlds together and be like, oh, I know what that is, because I remember playing that in the Horus Heresy.
That would be cool, and at the same notion, what they have to do is the reverse. For example, the Helm of the Lion.
Yes.
We know that's from the Lion. So when we get the Lion, he better have a Helm of the Lion.
Yeah.
Or else there'll give you issues. And with the Raven Guard, and I think they cover this, for example, they cover it in the story, and it's kind of mentioned in the Horus Heresy book from Forge World. Kyvan Shrike has lightning claws that were created for Korax.
Yep.
And it's covered. That lightning claw thing is covered in the book. So you make sure it's not like they don't have that, but make sure. And if they, like you're saying, do new, I totally agree they should have it. Like the Golems of Ultramar were found by their Primarch, so they should exist in that book. At the same time, if they get some new Helm of the Champion or whatever, it should be in for the Ultramarines too. So I'm definitely down with that.
And plus, also, it could help sell more miniatures, because you could think of it, let's just say, like, again, the Plasma Blade, it's a upgrade kit from Forge World. You can then buy the upgrade kit from Forge World to give your dude an official Plasma Cutter chapter relic piece.
Oh, yeah, no.
It would be like a
cool.
bit selling galore.
Yeah, well, that would be nice, and that just makes me wish they were still selling stuff as bits.
Yes. Oh, I miss the bit selling so much. That would have made my Thousand Suns conversion so much easier if they still had those.
Yeah, like that's out of everything I miss from 40K specifically, or from GW specifically, it would have to be bid ordering and their articles where they actually told you how to do things. Like, for example, in the Grey Knights Codex, when you look through to the back, the pictures of the different units, there's a thing for dreadnoughts, and it's clearly a Blood Angel Librarian Dreadnought that's been modified. You can tell by looking at it. And in the olden days, as they say, they would have had an article on GW site showing you how to do that. Yeah. And that's what I miss, that and bid ordering, because the only difference here is there's no blood drops on the main part of the body. It has a shield covering up some stuff, and the head, instead of it, because it's a librarian, so instead of having the death mask look, it's got a Grey Knight helmet look in there. So a tutorial on how they did that for these dreadnoughts would have been something they would have put on the old GW website for articles, and then they would have had buy these bits to do it. And
I guess it would be more of a what you're saying is you're wishing that they kind of encourage the hobby part of the game.
Well, I wish not that, because they do. I wish they would. I wish they encourage the
creativeness,
the controlled demolition of your models, because that's what it is. Like, oh, you want them here? If you hack up this model, you can use this model with this bit on this model, because clearly you're not utilizing all of the thing. Like, I wish they supported more of the conversion aspect, because they support the hobby and they support you painting and doing all this that way, but I wish they supported conversions more so than they do these days.
One thing I really wish they do is stop skipping steps in their painting tutorials. Because like I've seen like them do paint tutorials, and they go from one picture and they go, first you painted blood red, then you go to the next picture, goes, then do a dry brush of Ogren orange, and you're like, but what's that step that you did between the two? Because that's not the blood red you just painted in the first picture. Yeah. And I've taken it to like people who actually, take time and learn how to paint and all this, and I'm like, am I missing a step here? And they go ahead and they go, yeah, no, they did like a 1-to-1 mix before they did this step that they're telling you to do. And it's like, what? It would have been nice to know that's what they did.
Yeah. And that's one thing I'm hoping Forge World will do more of in the future. Forge World had their model masterclass books.
Yes.
And those are great books.
And even their like little paint chart for the legions are a lot better.
Yeah, which they got to update because there's more legions out and they haven't updated.
Yeah,
but
I just love that. It's like, oh, so first they did this, then that. Yeah. They like actually to you step 1, 2, 3, and 4, not step 1, 3, and 7.
Yeah, which I know you're listening, Forge World. Update your legions.
And keep doing what you're doing.
Keep doing what you're doing. Keep flashing that pearly smile. But the Model Masterclass books, just to gush about these even more. Worth picking up. They're a bit more vehicle-based, but it's worth picking up regardless, even if you don't play 40K games, because the techniques they show you are top-notch. The thing that they do with these books is they are blatantly showing you Tamiya products. They're blatantly showing you some other, like, just household products that aren't made by Forge World or GW.
They're not basically just tooting their own company's horn.
Yeah. I mean, they're using GW's paints, but they're also going, okay, well, we need this stuff they also show their own powders. But the stuff that they don't make, they show you what makes it. Like, at one point, they use oil paints for weathering. And they're going to tell you the oil paints they use because GWs make oil paint. So
they essentially admit when there's some stuff you can't just achieve with only their product.
Right. Which is one thing I what sold me on the series, because they're telling you this, which is, you know, maybe they wouldn't. And it's really good information on how to do weathering effects, some minor conversion stuff to get like the extra sense of realism in. And it's not just how to paint. Like, they're not showing you how to do non-metallic metal. They're not showing you how to do crazy lens flaring and glowing. They're showing you how to make the model look like it just, you know, went through the mud. They're basically showing you how to make the time-consuming steps to make your models look crappy, but in a good way. Like, to weather them and make them look used, and do other effects. Like, they're showing you how to take a hydraulic cylinder that's extended and giving it the oily sheen to it that it's been in use. Like, they're showing you stuff that really, when you look at Forge World models, because I think Forge World models are very well painted on their site, especially their tanks. And they're showing you the extra steps that if they didn't point it out, you wouldn't have picked out specifically, but overall makes the model look that much better. So, a very good thing to check out and pick up is their Masterclass Volume 1 and Volume 2. And I would love for them to do more and to pick up that slack, because they're great. And especially Volume 2, I believe, did stuff for terrain and diorama stuff. So they're showing you how to make it muddy, snowy. They're showing you how to, like, weather your model without going, dude, you just put a bunch of brown on your tank. They're showing you how to do it properly. And if they continue that for stuff in terms of showing how to do some models, showing how to do some things, if they took that and applied it to some crazy techniques that they would, of course, have to know, like if they broke down what they showed there for doing non-metallic metal or doing glow effects, I'd actually try it, because I could follow along with what they were talking about.
Yeah.
And the shots they show you are very clear, very crisp of what's going on. So I think that's one of Forge World's books that I don't say are unknown, but we know Forge World for models, the Imperial Armor campaign stuff, and the Forge World books. I mean, the Horus Heresy books. But their Model Masterclass series, books 1 and 2 so far, are great. I hope they do a third. It's if you're serious about, especially if you're serious about painting up their big, expensive models to the degree that they have it, it's worth checking it out. Because they go over the one thing that I think is crazy, is they go over for a Phantom Titan how to get the crazy, super glossy automotive paint color to them by essentially going over the steps for sanding paint to make it smoother and then paint over it, like that wet sand. Like, they go over as if they're painting a car almost, and it's to give it kind of that lacquered look, and it's really, really worth checking out. That's a step that I went, guys, you're crazy. But the effect, the end result is proof positive of how good it is. But
so we are running out of time.
Yep.
And I want to leave us off again with another question. Very simple one. I'm just curious to see what you guys are doing out there in YouTube land. What are you working on currently? What's on your table?
Yeah, you know, that's not your keyboard, but what wargaming stuff's on your table?
Well, my friend, anything?
What?
What are you working on?
I don't really have anything on the block at the moment. I did a Carcharodon up just for fun, because they're cool. I have some boats that I like to get started on at some point.
Yes, the Dreadfleet stuff.
But
which I should probably post that video.
Probably. That would help people going, what's he talking about? But I have a couple of boats that I want to get working on. And I have some Space Marine stuff that I kind of want to do some test models for, but I'm not quite sure of schemes for things yet to see, because I wanted to see how it would look, so do a test for it. But other than that, I don't have too much. How about you?
I've got several different projects in various steps of development. No, right now, I'm working on some models, particularly cultists from the Dark Vengeance set for the next Doranpor video. I just finished a model specifically for the Doranpor video. I'm not going to tell you what, because you have to watch the video to find out. But also to kind of keep my sanity so I don't get bored and just stop doing it right now, excuse me, in between steps of painting like the cultists and all the other models for that particular series, I'm painting my Reverend Titan. And I just finished base coating him, and I probably will do a video of me building him on camera. I just have to fix one part with his pinning in his leg, because I kind of screwed up.
Gotcha.
But other than that, that's what I've been working on. And so, Fearless Gamers, what have you been working on?
Yeah.
We'd like to know.
We would like to know.
So, that is all for right now. Thank you all for listening, and until next time, Fearless Gamers, this is Matt the Vet.
James the Wildcard.
Saying take care.
Don't play that Pac-Man game.